Today we're going to be talking about breeding Rhacodactylus leachianus. One thing to keep in mind is that leachianus at least form temporary bonds. And successful breeding depends on a pair that is compatible and copulates and produces viable eggs. There are a few simple rules when breeding giant geckos. Before actually even thinking of introducing your leachianus, just make sure that you can actually take care of the babies and get ready. They are violent breeders, so you will see scars on your females, you will see scars on your males. It is very common for them to fight because the female is the aggressor typically. She likes to test out the male's strength to ensure that, he's strong enough. Is he the actual best mate for me? Is what she's thinking. So if he can't handle her, he can't handle what else is out there. Compatibility issues typically happen with the larger locales, like the Grand Terres. When breeding giant geckos, they should be more or less the same size. They shouldn't be that much different. At a maximum, they should be 15 grams different in weight. Before introducing giant geckos, what you should do is take some cork from one of their cages and move it to the other, and vice versa. We like to use their cork hollows, so not the main one that they sleep in every single day. That is what gives them comfort, that's what allows them to feel safe. However, you're gonna poop on me. Nope. However, other pieces of cork within their enclosure actually work best. Typically, you want to do this at least 2 weeks before initial introduction. You want to give them a little bit of time so that they can actually get used to each other's scent. Another good way for getting them used to each other's scent is by stacking their cages. Leachies have the tendency of pooping on the door. And yeah, okay, it's really dirty. But what you can use that for is when they poop on the doors, it's kind of like a scenting mechanism as well. And sometimes it runs a little bit low and it goes into the cage that's directly below it. I found that this actually helps with the female getting used to the male's scent. Of course, you don't leave it there for a couple of days. You got to clean it once you see it. But that scent, having them stacked one on another, is probably the best way, one of the best ways at least, to have them get used to each other. What we like to do is introduce pairs in the winter or cooler months, or we just even reduce the temperature in our gecko room. We like to do this because we find they're a lot less aggressive when you introduce them in colder temperatures, so you don't really have to worry about them attacking each other right out of the gate. You still need to keep a very good eye on them for the first few days, but when you introduce them in lower temperatures, this does reduce the possibility of initial fighting. Make sure you check on your pairs every single night. One day they might be fine, but the next day, not so much. I find that leachianus have hair triggers. They can be best friends one day and then the next day they just hate each other and they're fighting. Every single night I hear breeding activity from my gecko room, so I know typically it's okay, but sometimes those growls, sometimes those barks and chirps, they don't actually mean anything good. It means that the female is attacking the male is attacking the female. Yes, they are very violent breeders. As you can tell with this female here, she actually has some scarring on the top of her head. But this is normal for breeding females, just because they do have teeth, they do bite you, it does hurt, but you should always keep an eye when you have a breeding group together, or a breeding pair together, because they can snap any day, and you do not want to see one of your prized animals with a chunk of flesh off their face, which I've seen in the past. You can Google it. I'm not going to share an image of it. If you notice any aggression, there are a few things that you should know that are normal. Locking jaws is okay. However, if you start seeing bruising on the body, you start seeing bites that actually break the skin. Also, I find that if you start seeing bites along the rear legs, that is a really, really bad sign. That just means that they just don't like each other. You can get a lost tail, which is the best case scenario. You can have a dead animal in the morning, which is the worst case scenario. So I can't emphasize enough that you just need to watch them every single night and ensure everything is fine and they're not going to kill each other that night. A good way to tell is if one of the geckos is at the top of the cage, the other gecko is at the bottom of the cage, kind of hiding underneath the leaves, or even tries to half dig themselves in the soil. This is a very, very good sign of bullying, and you do not want to keep them together if you see this. This is the number one sign that one of them, either the male or the female, is bullying the other one. Bite marks on the neck, in this area here, top of the head over here, are 100% normal. Actually, they are a sign of successful copulation. So right now I can see, there's a little bit of scarring on this female here. But to me, that is because she does have a pair bonded male with her. And that means that she was a virgin before being with this male. He was a virgin as well. So that means they successfully copulated. Now you just gotta wait 45 days before you can actually tell and see if you get some fertile eggs out of them. The first pairing, or the first set of eggs, usually isn't viable. They can be, if you're very, very lucky. But you'll usually get one that's viable and the other one isn't, because it's all dependent on the cycle as to when you actually put them together. She could have already been forming those eggs within her belly, and he copulated afterwards, so they can be infertile but still have copulated successfully. So I would have a 90-day period where you're actually monitoring the eggs and see 2 clutches. Also, when breeding leachianus, make sure you have a really, really detailed record keeping log. Females tend to get sick of their males a few years later, even a few months later. It really depends. So what you'll be able to tell is, you're getting consistently 2 fertile eggs every single 45 days, and then all of a sudden 1 fertile egg, then no fertile eggs, they're all infertile. So that is usually a sign that the male and the female are no longer compatible, or the female just doesn't want to copulate. A good way to counteract this is by splitting them up for a couple of weeks and putting them back together. When you do this, it kind of re-gauges their interests. Think of yourself going on vacation, leaving your spouse at home, seeing them after 2 weeks of not seeing them for a while. Things usually happen. A bad thing about leachies is, yes, they are very, very aggressive breeders. And after initial introduction, they may lose their tails. This is okay as long as you then notice that they are a compatible pair. By compatible pair, what I mean is they're sleeping together, they're eating together. That's usually a good way to tell, is if they're eating together or they sleep side by side. That actually is a really good indication that you have a compatible pair. In New Caledonia, giant geckos are exposed to winter temperatures of 16 degrees Celsius, which is mid-60s Fahrenheit. If you were to recreate this in captivity, it would only be needed for 4 to 6 weeks. So in your gecko room, it would be best to keep them in a brumation mode for 4 to 6 weeks, where you reduce their temperatures to the 60s. This actually promotes breeding after they're taken out of brumation. Alongside reducing these temperatures, you should reduce the amount of light intake as well in their cage. So they should be reduced to 10 hours or less of UVB or just any type of lighting. In brumation, they will eat a lot less. don't be scared if they stop eating altogether. That is 100% normal. Just make sure that after your brumation period that you feed them a nice pinky, just to get them up with their energy as well. You do not want to pair hungry geckos. Make sure that you're feeding them right before you actually put them together, because if they're hungry, they will eat each other's tails. So during brumation, you can offer them food, but it's not really necessary. What you really should only offer them is a bowl of water so that they can drink, because during their brumation, they are not going to be eating. The lower temperatures don't really stimulate their metabolism, so if they do eat, it's very, very little. A thing to keep in mind is that brumation is not necessary, but it's said that you have better breeding results if you brumate your geckos. Now, if all goes well, you should have eggs within 45 days of initial copulation. But as I said before, I would strongly advise that you wait until the 90 days to see if they're a compatible pair. Of course, keep in mind if you see any type of aggression or bowing or scarring or bruising on their bodies, that you should right away take them and separate them. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to drop a like down below and subscribe for future content. Check out this baby.